The NBA is back and the Detroit Pistons are the worst team in the league. Nah, just kidding. It's only been one preseason game and there's some positives to take out of it. Now, are we going to be the worst team in the league? Well, that's yet to be seen, but I don't think that's quite the case. I think we've still got some room to be optimistic, and we'll just start straight with the optimistic things, and you've got to start no other place than Saddiq Bey. Our first pick, Killian had a bit more troubles, which, I mean, it's to be expected from a point guard who's 19 years of age, coming up against the Knicks, who are playing their best team and playing under a defensive-minded coach in his first preseason game after spending 2 weeks with the team. That's one thing I've got to talk about. Normally, preseason games are like fine-tuning you guys heading into the season. This is like really, really preseason. Like, this is really needed to get the reps under the belt, because rookies would normally come in and have a couple of months to play scrimmages and do all of that and just get accustomed to the team and everyone around them. They've had like 2 weeks. There's just been no time, and that's going to see some incredible growing pains. And now that I think about it, the more that I think about it with the season, a lot of those teams that have had continuity, so teams that have made a lot of changes, are going to struggle. And the Pistons are one of those teams, so that's probably going to be the main reason for our struggles, I think. Just the lack of continuity with the playing group, because you just haven't had any time to develop any kind of chemistry. It's been like 3 weeks, and of course they were going to struggle against a Knicks team that, although they're not a great team, they've been together for at least a year, pretty much the majority of them, and they played like a 9-man rotation. But anyways, that's kind of me getting sidetracked. Let's talk about Saddiq Bey, because what he did was fantastic. He did pretty much all we could have asked from him. He showed effort on defense and showed strength in the post, guarding up against Randall at times, and then switching out onto the perimeter. His defense wasn't locked down or anything, but I'm sure it'll come along, and it looked pretty solid. And then offensively, catch and shooting was there. Even hit a little step back mid-range jumper showing off a handle. He got to the rim, nearly got an and one. Pretty much everything you could have asked for in terms of his catch and shoot 3-point shooting, his defense, and just his physicality and overall ability to play the game of basketball was all there, and pretty much can't be any more happy with his performance. He then had Isaiah Stewart, who came in and made some kind of an impact off the bench real late in the game, but he showed his rebounding ability, he showed his energy, and I'm sure once he gets more touches, he'll be able to show some scoring as well, because I've seen his college highlights. He can score. He's not just some kind of uncoordinated big man that just grabs rebounds and dunks. Like, he's got a little post hook, he's got a little mid-range jumper, he's got a little spin move, he's got a few things in his locker, and I'm sure as he gets more confident and as he gets more playing time, he's going to do all of those kind of things. And I'd really like to see him start pretty soon, because getting onto the negatives, Mason Plumlee just didn't look very good at all out there. His hands were very sloppy. He just didn't do a whole lot in the 20 or so minutes he played. And I'm not going to get too dramatic, because what do you expect? He's just a role player. But at the same time, he looked pretty bad. And if it's a matter of, say, Stewart playing at 90% of the level Plumlee's at, but he's 19 and we're going to develop him for years to come, then I'm definitely taking that option over leaving Plumlee on the floor. But we'll give him a chance. Like I said, these players have been with the team for a few weeks. They really haven't had a chance to acclimate or get into the groove of things. So that's why you just can't be too harsh on this team. And that's why when you're talking about, oh, this team looked terrible against the Knicks, like I said, the Knicks had a 9-man rotation of players that have pretty much all been on the team for at least a year, as opposed to the Pistons playing like a 15-man rotation of about 12 new players. Like, that's just ridiculous to expect them to do anything other than probably lose. Now, heading into the season, they're probably going to struggle a bit more than I expected because of all those things that I didn't factor in as much. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to be as terrible as they probably looked at times throughout this game. I think once they get a few repetitions under their belt, they get 4 practice games, and they get all of that to really develop as a team, then they're going to look better. And they looked better towards the end of the game, even with their bench unit. Josh Jackson did a few nice things. As I said, Saddiq Bey, Svi Mykhailiuk looked a lot better than Delon Wright. I think Delon Wright's still kind of ahead of Svi because of that playmaking that he can offer. But at the same time, if he has one more game like that and Svi has one more game like that, then I'm sure Svi's going to easily overtake him. But Delon at the moment, I think, is just kind of there just so Killian doesn't get overwhelmed on the playmaking side of things and the defensive end of the ball. And so let's talk about Hayes, because people have been kind of critical of him. Some people, others haven't, because they realize that he's a 19-year-old rookie playing his first game in the NBA. So it doesn't normally work out that well when you're a starting point guard. And all of those things you got to factor in. I mean, Trae Young was terrible for like his first 30 games of the NBA season. His first preseason games, he was bad. And this is someone who had 2 months to work with the team. Hayes has had like 2 weeks, so you can't really expect anything other than growing pains, and that's exactly what we got. But at the same time, he showed off some moves, he showed off a few things, he showed off passing, penetration, getting to the rim, and playmaking was probably the main asset. His shooting wasn't really there today, but I'm sure that'll come. Defensively as well, actually, I saw a few things that I liked. Nothing in particular, but just a few things that showed promise in terms of his defensive ability and upside of him being a two-way player. But yeah, Hayes, I mean, what else do you expect? Like, I don't know what people are expecting, a 30-point game. Sure, he's going to have his good games, he's going to have his tough games, and this was one of the tougher games, but for all the reasons I mentioned, it's just ludicrous to expect much more from him. In terms of Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, I mean, they looked good. Derrick Rose looked the same as usual. And Blake, I don't know what he ended up with in terms of points or shooting percentage, but I saw what I needed to see, and that was him looking healthy, him having some lift in his jump shot and in his step back, and him being able to make plays for the team in terms of getting out in transition and finding open shooters and open cutters. That's what he's done when he's at his best. And the reality is, if we can get Blake healthy for 40 games, as I've said, help the young guys along until they're more confident and can finally stand on their own 2 feet in the NBA, then hopefully you get rid of Blake, you get some picks in return, he goes to a contender, he hopefully tries to help them out, and it's just a win-win all around. But at the moment, we've still got to see him be healthy for a bit longer and see him deliver a bit more. But I was more than happy with what I saw from him. In terms of our biggest signing, Jeremy Grant, I mean, he got some criticism because he shot 1 for 11. I didn't realize it was that bad, but he showed signs defensively. He was really good defensively, actually. Pretty good, maybe not really good. He was pretty good defensively, and offensively, I have one kind of thing that I don't like. I don't like when he steps into that mid-range shot when he can take an open 3. That's something that he should stop doing. I don't mind a mid-range shot from him. I think that was the only bucket he got. But at the same time, if he's got an open 3, there's no point taking a deep mid-range. You've got to understand, this is unprecedented circumstances. Pretty much the Pistons are unprecedented in its own in terms of them having like 12 new players. I don't know if that's really been done before. This must be more turnover than pretty much any time in NBA history. And then you add to that fact that they really haven't had any time to gel. Yeah, it's going to be rough the first few months probably of the season, particularly the first 4 preseason games, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because we don't mind finishing towards the bottom of the table because it means we get a top draft pick. And if we do put it together and Blake stays healthy and we finish towards higher up the table, I've never said they'd finish any higher than potentially 8th in the Eastern Conference, which went out the window as well when the Wizards signed Westbrook, but even still towards 9th, 10th, like it wouldn't shock me considering the talent they have, but at the same time, there's just a lot of things that have to go right, and I've said that all along. But either way, it works, and either way, this preseason game, not too much to take out of it. I think there was some disappointing performances from guys like Plumlee and Talon Wright, but at the same time, we saw some great things from Saddiq Bey. I liked what I saw from Isaiah Stewart. I saw enough from Killian Hayes to suggest he's got the talent, obviously, and Svi Mykhailiuk looked really good coming off those screens, hitting those really quick pull-up jumpers, which is what he needs to do. No dribbles. That's what all the good shooters do. They just get the ball and shoot. And that's what we're going to hope to see from Svi. He looked fantastic shooting the ball, so I'd really love to see him in the lineup. He's obviously such a great shooter. And when I said he was the best shooter in the NBA, the best shooter of all time, people laughed at me. Like, what's funny? He's clearly the best shooter of all time. From Svi being the GOAT that he is, and all of the things I've mentioned, I don't think I've missed anything. Yeah, congrats to the Knicks. You probably got your best win of the season to come. Obi Toppin looks good. RJ Barrett did airball a few threes, but yeah, he got his points. Thibodeau plays his 9-man rotation in preseason game 1 against a team that had 16 different players playing and has been together for 2 weeks. But, you know, congrats to the Knicks. Congrats. You did well. That's a win. So that's pretty much everything. If there was ever a time not to overreact to a preseason game, it's not to overreact to a team that had about 15 different players, 15 new players playing together for like the first time after only being together for about 2 weeks against a Knicks team that, albeit, again, aren't that good, but have been together for like a year, pretty much the majority of them, apart from like a couple of incomings, and played a 9-man rotation as opposed to like a 16-man rotation from the Pistons. There's just absolutely no reason to overreact, and if we're terrible, we're terrible. It really doesn't matter. Either way, it's going to be good. Either way, there's going to be young players showing signs all throughout the year, and Saddiq Bey is clearly the biggest positive from tonight, but there's other positives as well. Blake Griffin looks healthy, D Rose looks healthy, and guys like Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, Svi Mikhailiuk all look good. As always, if you did make it to the end of the video, you may as well drop a like. You may as well subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated. Other than that, I'll catch you next time. Bye.